You just had this word war with the former
Spokesperson.
former ambassador,
Oh, yeah,
former
and
spokesman of the President Gloria Arroyo, si Bobby Tiglao, over this matter.
Yes, sir.
So, paano po yan? May hamon po kayo sa kanya na humarap sa Senado?
Well, actually, ang issue natin sa kanya, no, ang dami niyang mga nasulat, no, sa blogs niya, sa mga article niya sa Manila Times about undermining our position in the West Philippines. So, it worries the national government tungkol sa mga ganitong statement niya because it actually amplifies the messaging of the Chinese narrative, no? So, my recommendation to him is that kung talagang he is preaching the gospel truth, no, when it comes to the West Philippine Sea concern, he should be able to face the Senate for the inquiry na ililid ni Senator Jingo Estrada regarding misinformation.
Okay. May I move to another topic, Commodore Tarriela? We'd just like to know whether there was an offer from the U.S. government or a request from the Philippine government for U.S. escorts para dun sa mga RORE missions to Ayungin and to Scarborough Shoal.
Well, for the request of the U.S. for the Philippine government, for the U.S., or even an offer from the U.S. government for the Philippines na mag-provide sila na escort for the resupply mission, I'm going to leave that question to the Armed Forces of the Philippines because as what I have been mentioning before, no, the resupply mission is purely a military operation. The Philippine Coast Guard was only tasked to provide security escort, no, sa supply boats na to. So as to whatever requests that we need to have with the U.S. government, kung meron man, I think the Armed Forces of the Philippines is in a better position to respond to that question, sir.
So neither confirm nor deny, Commodore?
Yes, sir.
Commodore, nag-reconstitute ng Coastal Watch body natin, we now have a Maritime Council. Ano ba yung impact nun sa Philippine Coast Guard? Can you tell us kung ano yung aasahan namin, siguro in the coming months, as a result of the creation of this Maritime Council on the part of the Coast Guard?
Well, if you're going to look at the content of the Executive Order 57 signed by President Marcos, there were some renaming of the National Coast Watch Council, the National Coast Watch Secretariat, and also the National Coast Watch Center. No? Before, there were still three bodies na binabanggit dito sa EO na originally signed by President Pinoy. So ito yung National Coast Watch Council, Secretariat, and then the Center. Ngayon, they have renamed it to National Maritime Council, the National Maritime Center, and of course, the Secretariat before, which is only a USEC position, is now cabinet level, which is to be headed by Secretary Centino. I think sa unang tingin natin sa executive order, ang pinaka-noticeable talaga dito is that the Secretariat now, which is the Presidential Assistance Advisor for Maritime Concern, is already a cabinet-level position. As to the Philippine Coast Guard, of course, we're still going to support the National Maritime Council in running the National Maritime Center, which is co-located sa national headquarters ng Philippine Coast Guard. But again, we're still waiting for the implementing guidelines of the executive order for us to have a much more thorough understanding of the executive order.
Commodore, prior to
Commodore, maasahan ba natin, Commodore, na lalakas yung capability ng Coast Guard, ng Navy to fend off, halimbawa, yung mga water cannon attack? It's an attack. Yun ba maasahan natin, given ba yun sa pag-constitute ng Maritime Council?
Well, as you can see, ma'am, no, dun sa NTF WPS natin, which is the National Task Force West Philippine Sea, The Coast Guard is part of it, and the Armed Forces of the Philippines as well, chaired by the National Security Advisor, Eduardo Anyo, na-retain pa rin naman dito sa executive order. So, as to the operational changes na mangyayari and the responses that we are going to have sa mga ganitong harassment ng Chinese Coast Guard or the Chinese Maritime Militia, I don't think na mas mayroong ganyang level ng aggression dahil mayroong bagong body na create. Again, the guidance of the President remains to be the same. We're going to deal with the Chinese Coast Guard or the Chinese Maritime Militia professionally, and we're going to maintain our temper, and we're not going to be the reason of the escalation of tension in the West Philippine Sea.
Okay, Commodore, we're watching the videos, itong pag-water cannon sa supply boat ng military, which you are supposed to provide escort for. I just wonder, help us appreciate, Commodore, if there are escorts, okay, whether Navy or I understand Coast Guard escorts to these resupply boats, paano ho nangyayari tactically at least yung mga ganitong maneuvers na nakakadikit yung Chinese Navy or Chinese Coast Guard pala, and how can the Coast Guard prevent this water cannon attacks?
Well,
is it possible?
Lahat, no?
Is it possible?
Even before, basta mag-reach na tayo ng 12 nautical mile distance from Ayungin Shoal, ang gagawin na ng Chinese Coast Guard together with the support of the Chinese Maritime Militia is for them to separate the Philippine Coast Guard vessel from the supply boat.
Okay.
So kapag na-corral na nila, they were able to trap and limit the maneuverability of the Philippine Coast Guard vessel. That's the time that they're going to bring the supply boat away from the Philippine Coast Guard vessel and also to guide them away, moving farther dun sa Ayungin Shoal. No? And then the moment na separated na sila, that's the time that the supply boat is being harassed, whether they're going to be subject of dangerous maneuver, and then itong pinaka-reason nga is yung water cannon.
Okay.
This explains kung bakit ang Philippine Coast Guard was not on that actual video, but we have provided the videos showing the reason why the Philippine Coast Guard was not there when the supply boat was being water canned.
Oh, that's perfectly understandable now, or clear, Commodore. But I just wonder, Commodore, given that this is China's tactic or strategy or move or maneuver in that part, is there a countermeasure that the Philippine Coast Guard can do or undertake to prevent the supply boat from being overwhelmed by a water cannon attack?
Well, right now we are reviewing the operational details for the resupply mission, and unfortunately I cannot disclose to the public what will be the changes that we're going to execute in the next resupply mission.
Okay, pero pinag-aaralan naman po.
Yes, sir.
Pero Commodore, may balak ba tayong palitan yung mga... Kasi sabi, kaya daw ganyang katindi yung damage sa resupply vessel natin. Kasi it's made of wood. May balak ba tayo na kumuha ng mga medyo bago naman na ship na na made of metal para hindi ganyang katindi at saka na hindi na i-endure yung mga crew ng mga vessels natin?
Well, again, ma'am, let me highlight and emphasize the fact that the resupply mission is purely an operation of the Armed Forces of the Philippines. And we are only tasked to provide security escort. As to the pagbabago ng ating resupply boat, I think there are already considerations being done. But again, it's for the Armed Forces of the Philippines to decide on whatever watercraft that they're going to use to carry out the resupply mission.
Okay, Commodore Tarriela, alam mo, fina-follow ko si Commodore Tarriela sa social media or sa Twitter or X specifically. So doon, maraming nag-engage sa inyo doon, Commodore Tarriela. Pero ano yung pinaka-reaction nyo kapag yung interaction with you ay yung accusation na you're war-hungry? Usually nang binabato sa inyo doon sa Twitter. So paano nyo to hinahandle kapag kayo ay binabato ng ganito?
Well, una sa lahat, sir, thank you for following me sa Twitter. Pero kung mapapansin mo, sir, hindi ako nagre-respond sa mga trolls. I think the only time that I responded was to the tweet of former Ambassador Tiglao. But for those instances na sinasabihan ako ng mga trolls na warmongering, CIA, mga ganyan, I don't usually respond with those kind of accusations.
So para dinededma na lang ni Commodore kapag ka ganun. Ma'am Ami.
Yes, sir.
Commodore,
Okay na ako.
Yeah, Commodore, last question, I guess, Commodore. No? The President issued a statement last week in which he said that he has been talking to our allies, he has informed them of our requirements, and he has been assured that they will be, I'm paraphrasing here, that they will be met. He has been assured or guaranteed that they will be met. So we're talking about trying to beef up the capability of, let's say, the Coast Guard or the AFP in terms of securing our interests in the West Philippine Sea. On the part of the Coast Guard, Commodore Tarriela, are we going to see some major developments in its capability as a result of this newly formed Maritime Council?
Well, to tell you honestly, sir, no, I don't see any yung talagang biglaang pagbabago no, sa capability ng Philippine Coast Guard. I think the President is also wanting to mention that, you know, there are things that we have been receiving pagdating sa capability, but it cannot be done overnight. No? For example, the acquisition of additional 97-meter Coast Guard vessels for us to receive from the Japanese government through the ODA loan. And there are other things na kinukuha tayo through acquisition. And it would really take a long process. No? So, hindi naman ito mabilisan.
Hindi overnight. We're hearing that something's coming from Australia. Is there some equipment coming from Australia or Commodore?
I'm not really sure, sir, with the Australian government when it comes to the capability of the Philippine Coast Guard. But it's worth mentioning, no, na ang Coast Guard during the early days ng Coast Guard development, they have been very supportive also for the acquisition of vessels and also for the maritime domain awareness.